My name is Nicole Mauslin with EngageBay. Today, we're proud to continue our interview series where we sit down with the biggest names in sales and marketing. For this episode of the series, our guest is public relations and marketing expert, Deirdre Breakenridge. Deirdre is also an author of many books, a public speaker, and an entrepreneur. First and foremost, she's the CEO of Pure Performance Communications, and she brings more than 25 years of experience helping senior executives in mid and large-sized organizations communicate to their stakeholders. Deirdre also hosts a podcast show called Women Worldwide, which is produced by the social network station. She was awarded the Best 50 Women in Business by NJBiz in 2015, and she was also named on the Richtopia 250 Most Influential Women Leaders in the World list. Furthermore, she's been recognized by Cision as one of the top 50 social media influencers of 2014, and she won the 2014 PR Tech Award honoree. So, without further delay, let's get talking. How are you, Deirdre?
I'm doing well. How are you, Nicole?
I'm good, thank you. So we'll begin with the first question. I know you have a degree in communications and PR and an MBA in marketing, and you also have an international public relations, or you've become an international public relations thought leader. So how has the journey been from all of that to where you are now?
Oh my gosh, it has been very exciting. A journey of listening and learning and a lot of change. And of course, we know that's because of technology and media today. But it's been a journey, one of love and passion, most of all. I guess I was somebody who recognized early on what I loved. So back in high school and carried it through into college and my career and my MBA into now. I'm a storyteller at heart, and I love to connect people and build relationships.
That's wonderful. And you do a lot of teaching, right? I know you're involved with NYU and UMass and Rutgers, among others.
Yes, I actually, my first teaching job was at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and I spent 7 years in the classroom as a part of their global business management department. And then I transitioned, I wrote a couple books in between, and then transitioned over to NYU. And I was there for about, I'd say 4 years, and then realized, oh my goodness, I can teach online. So I started teaching online for Rutgers and also UMass.
So how do you manage all your time? Where do you find the time to do all of this?
So I guess there's a couple of parts to this question. First of all, being really focused means that you have to step back, relax, breathe. I do a lot of meditation so I can have more clarity during the day. And when you do, you're so much more organized and you can manage your time. So I meditate for 45 minutes every morning, and I do 15 minutes at night. And this really, really helps to get me aligned and in tune. So that's number one. Number two is I know that I need help sometimes with time management. And I've had a virtual assistant for quite a few years now. And really, it's gotten so busy with my podcast, Women Worldwide, that she focuses a lot on the bookings of the guests and our pre-calls. And I just want to make one little correction to the statement. So we're not with the social network station anymore. Okay. We are independent, and I have a whole team of incredibly enthusiastic professionals behind my show. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know how we would be produced, distributed, and promoted.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about Women Worldwide. How did it get started?
Okay. So as a public relations professional and a marketer, I've always thought about reinvention. And I look at how music artists reinvent, and I say, why don't we do that? So because media is always changing, that's one thing that I've always done. So not only am I a traditional book author, but I've been a blogger since 2007. I used podcasting as one more way to reinvent myself. And Women Worldwide were just 5 years old. So we started, I think, producing shows in October of 2014. And that was at a time I realized that there are only 13% of women hosts. And I thought, wow, goodness, that's such a low percentage. So that was number one reason that I wanted to be the host of a show. And the second reason was because it was at a time that there were a lot of statistics coming out about women who were being harassed and cyberbullied. And I had heard just a very, very sad story about a young girl in Canada, in Montreal. I met her mother. She took her life, and before she did, she created this YouTube video that shared sort of how she was feeling. And one of the things, one message, big message, was that she felt like she didn't have a voice, and she felt like she was all alone. And I thought, wow, a young woman or any woman who doesn't have a voice. Women need a voice. Women need a platform, and they should never feel alone. And that's what's behind Women Worldwide. It's a show where the most talented, accomplished women come and interview with me. They share their journey, but they're real people. And they also give advice and tips around their challenges just so that they can help someone else. So we always say that we're sharing stories to change lives, one story at a time. And that's how the show was born.
That's really incredible. So what is the biggest milestone you've had on the show, would you say?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so other than the 5 years reaching that milestone, I've interviewed over 235 guests. We're almost at 2 million downloads, which is unbelievable in and of itself. But really, it's the fact that the biggest milestone is hearing our listeners and now our viewers on YouTube say things like, I heard Mal Duane on the show, and it felt like she was talking to me. Her story was similar to mine, and that's life-changing. When listeners share that way, that you've helped them, that's the biggest milestone. We've accomplished our goal right there.
That's wonderful. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Pure Performance Communications. What was the impetus to start that?
So Pure Performance Communications is a consulting firm.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been in agency life for many years. I spent 10 years working in other people's agencies, decided to become an entrepreneur, launched my own little small PR agency that was acquired by a larger marketing firm. And after spending, I guess it was 13 or almost 14 years as an agency owner, I realized that a lot of the work that I loved so much, I wasn't able to accomplish as an agency owner. You get pulled away from your passion. So my passion is storytelling and using stories, authentic stories, so that people can connect and build real relationships and be seen and be heard and kind of realize valuable outcomes. But as an agency owner, you can't do that. So I took the stage to consulting. And now I work on a lot of strategy and storytelling and using new media, because there are some great ways in order to have genuine connections. And that's a very fine blend between communications and infusing technology so that you can really excite audiences and create loyalty and those unbreakable bonds.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit about the services you would offer for a business?
Sure. So right now, I've actually transitioned into a new communications model. And it's out of a sad story, but it's actually something that has made me rethink everything that I'm doing. So we lost my stepdaughter, our daughter, last year. It was a tragic story.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And out of that, she was 24 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very, very young. And it made me really step back to say, how do millennials share? How do they show up? What do they need? What do they care about? What's missing in their connections? And I started to interview millennials every single week since Noel has passed. That's a lot of research. Then I also started listening on social media to conversations around the characteristics of leaders and, how they show up to their conversations. And what I found out was this new model called Feel. And it's not just about millennials. I think it's about any generation or any person. In order to communicate, to build an unbreakable bond, you have to feel first. So what I do with clients, whether it's my consulting practice or I'm giving a training workshop, it's always about facing your fears, engaging with empathy, using ethics and good judgment, and unleashing the love. And really, I think what people forget is that feel is on both sides. You have to feel, and you have to understand what the people who matter, what they're feeling as well. And when you have that understanding and that passion potential to share and to build relationships and to use media to do it, that's really powerful. So we do a lot around research, we do a lot around creating the stories, the momentum, the media that you're going to use. But at the end of the day, feel is about the relationships that you forge. And that's going to show the real value and outcomes.
Absolutely. So speaking of media, let's jump a little bit into PR expansion. How do you believe PR has expanded, and how do you believe that technology and social media has contributed?
Oh my gosh. So technology and social media kind of turned PR upside down. So I remember back in the day, so I'm going to date myself because I'm going to go back into the 80s when I was doing public relations and we had a fax machine. Okay. So that was the hot technology of the time. The way that we shared a story, messages were created, mostly it was a top-down structure where it came from the boardroom and it was given to the PR department, the communications department. We would massage the messages and then send them out in different ways. Social media is about people, and any technology or media where you show up, it's about the people who, whether they want you there or not, and what you're going to offer to them that's meaningful. So you had to reverse engineer the process. You had to listen in order to engage and participate and to understand. So listen, meaning use technology to track conversations, but most of all, to be real. You can't just cram messages down your audience's throats because they don't need to have you on their Facebook news feed. They don't need to have you in their Twitter communities. You have to earn that. And the only way to do that is through authenticity and being open and transparent. And this was a game changer for brands. They weren't used to that. It was more of the command and control style of communication. Send it out to the communications department, see how it was perceived. You might be waiting for your clip books, right? Because clipping services would let you know how the public felt. That's not it at all today. It's listen first, your entire organization. Everybody has a reason to share, but there has to be an understanding around the sharing, and it's real time. So now we have to think about what are people saying 24/7, and how do we tune in and protect and maintain reputation? So it's a whole new ball game when it comes to PR.
And you've written on your blog about PR 2.0. Is that what you would refer to as PR 2.0?
So yeah, that was the start of PR 2.0, where we really had a different process. It was new technology. We had to think differently about, as PR people, roles and responsibilities. And as soon as I started listening in communities and I heard PR professionals concerned and challenged by new responsibilities, that's actually when I wrote the book, Social Media and Public Relations, 8 New Practices for PR Professionals, because it was all about the new practices that they had to dive into and the way that communications department, how we had to rethink how we were going to share stories and engage in different communities. That made sense.
Mm-hmm. So I know in one of the blog posts you did, you mentioned about enhancing newsrooms with PR 2.0. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the newsroom typically back in the day, well, first of all, even before there was the internet, there was no newsroom. We were sending out media kits. I mean, I remember going to trade shows and stuffing media kits for news media that would be there. And then all of a sudden we had the internet and we had the ability to create newsrooms. But we even were falling short when that first happened because we thought it was just about the media. And what would we put there to help the media to create their stories? That in and of itself was kind of a game changer because it enabled news media to go into a newsroom and just pull information. Not that we wanted to take the PR person out of it, but sometimes media need quick answers. They need logos. They need photos of executives. But then we step back and we realized, is a newsroom really only for the media? And who is the media today? Well, guess what? There's traditional journalists who might also be bloggers. There's new influencers, there's Twitterati, there's Instagrammers, there's YouTubers. There are your customers, there are your analysts, your shareholders. Everybody wants to learn about a company or brand. So the newsroom has opened up. It's more of a media center. And it's just a great place to house all of the information that your different stakeholder groups can find and that they can share on your behalf because it's all approved communication.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what do you think the role is for public relations for small and medium businesses?
So PR is always going to help small and medium businesses establish credibility and to build trust with the public. So that is one thing. It's about that third party endorsement, but now it's different. It's opened up so that PR can also not only do media relations, we're doing influencer relations, we're sometimes doing content marketing and working with influencers to engage in that. It's just a great way to be able to have people trust you within your communities. I believe in a mix of media, so it's never going to be just public relations, just marketing, content marketing, advertising. It's really good that you have, it's that peso mix: paid, earned, shared, and of course own media, things that you put together yourself that you want to share.
Okay, so let's talk about social media a little bit. I know you started the Twitter hashtag, the PR Stud Chat, correct?
Yes, sure did. Co-founded that.
That is really cool, because I remember hearing about that back in the day. So where did that come from, and what was, do you think it's achieved its objective since?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that started, I want to say, in 2009. So that means we are 10 years old, which is amazing. I'm the co-founder. My other co-founder is Valerie Simon, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Atlantic Health System. And Valerie and I, we had met through our public relations circles. And it was actually at a time when a student had asked me to participate in a blog series that she was writing. And it was called, Is PR Right for Me? So she was interviewing different, influencers or professionals about how do you know if PR is right? And that post, her series, had so many people talking about public relations and all the changes that were going on because of social media. So Valerie pinged me on Twitter one day. She DM'd me and she said, what do you think if we do something with this? So many people are asking about public relations and students need help. And that's when PR Stud Chat was born, because that community is for students, educators, and professionals to connect. It's all about mentoring. And students have found mentors. There's even been reverse mentoring, because I believe that when you talk to students, when you talk to young professionals, guess what? I'm learning too. So you just never know what you're going to learn. So we have accomplished our goal, because not only have students found mentors, but they've also found jobs and careers through PR Chat. So it's just a great learning community. And we have a chat session every single month. It's usually the third Thursday of the month at lunchtime.
Yeah, because I'm dating myself too, but 10 years ago I was in college and I remember hearing about it in a PR class. So it's like,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's crazy, to see it pop up again. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about blogging and how, you said content marketing should be the whole equation, but, where do you suggest content marketing fits for small and medium businesses?
So definitely important. For small and medium businesses, I always go by the cornerstone, cobblestone approach to content marketing, which if you have smaller resources in-house, it's just a way to step back, look at your entire marketing program and your business objectives, because of course marketing is tied to sales, and say, what is it that we're trying to accomplish within our 4 quarters? What are the big things? And when you identify, let's say, the biggest thing in a quarter, what piece of content can you create, or what event, or what can you do that you're going to use as your cornerstone? And you're going to create something around that. So for example, if you have a big trade show in the first quarter, your cornerstone might actually be the website, where you drive everybody, that houses all your show information and where your booth is going to be and all the interviews that you're lined up. And then that's the cornerstone. The cobblestones are all the pieces that come out of that event from that website. So it could be interviews that are carved up and put on a blog. It could be talking head videos around products that you've launched. It could be some kind of survey that you did that you're putting out on an infographic. It could be your news releases, but you're always anchoring in something and then using all of the cobblestones and sharing that through different channels, changing maybe the media format, changing the messaging for the people that you're reaching, and you're giving it a longer shelf life, and also a way to be amplified, especially when you involve influencers in your cornerstone cobblestone approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really effective way for small and medium-sized businesses to look at their content marketing.
Okay, that's really interesting. So moving on, I know automation and AI are two, very commonplace things in a lot of marketing. Where do you think that fits in with public relations?
So it definitely fits in, because I can't tell you how many teams and how many hours I've spent in databases searching for media that I want to target and build relationships and learn about. So, AI certainly creates those lists, the information that we want to build and then capitalize upon. They have AI right now creating stories. I think the Associated Press.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so we're already seeing this play out. Programmatic, for example, advertising, the richness of the data and how advertising is done in real time. So if you're on the PR team, and I believe PR and marketing and advertising all have to work together, that data is so rich. You're going to find out what consumers are doing in real time and what they care about based on the way that you need to advertise to them. That information can be used on the PR side. So there's a lot of value to the data that tells a story. The data that, we're so focused on, let's use data to measure and analytics to prove that we've done something right in our campaigns. Now it's time for us to look at AI and smart data to say, what are the trending stories and topics? What's next that I need to pitch to these media outlets to be more creative? What are some of the ways that PR can tap into what consumers are doing and listening to what the public's saying and bring that back to the product development team and to say, hey, this is next. This is what people are asking for. Build this into our product or service. So it's just a way to be smarter and to really let us use our brains, because at the end of the day, it's going to be our brains, our intellectual capital, our ability to build relationships around the information, our intuition of what that data says to us and how we use it, because machines can't do that. We can do it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's say you're a small or medium-sized business and you have a limited budget and you have the choice between PR or paid social media. Would you advise for one or the other, or both?
Okay, so that's a really tough question, because if you're bootstrapped, you always want to be building relationships, and you need to be credible. You need that credibility and trust in the marketplace. Otherwise, I do come from a place of, when you build your credibility and trust, kick in your paid and you're going to soar. So, but sometimes if you move out with the paid, it might not necessarily work if the trust and the credibility is not there, and you're in a very crowded marketplace. That's why standing out with the thought leadership and the people and what you're doing and that unique story can definitely, and having somebody else tell your story can
Yeah.
make a difference. So I've always been on the side of build up through the credibility and the PR, and then kick in when you have the funds for advertising.
Okay. So you would say to do both then?
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to do both.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, so on Facebook, a business on Facebook, you're not going to be able to build enough organically in someone's news feed. Facebook algorithm is built so that if you use their advertising, it's going to work really well with your organic approach.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do a little bit of everything.
Okay. So what would you advise SMBs to do for marketing resource management?
Okay, so here's the thing. I think that we really have to think about our people, our process, and our technology. Great ideas come to the surface. We get all excited about them, but we're not really thinking about all of the parts and the process and what is the system that's going to help and support us, from the ways that we creatively brainstorm to the actual creative development to the assets that we're going to development and house in the system, to how it's going to move and go through some kind of editing and approval process of project management, to the financial aspects of it. There's so many components. And if we don't have that in place, then how are we going to get that out smoothly and be able to move with the market and manage all the great conversations and the things that happen and be able to analyze and get the analytics? So sometimes I think that we can be overzealous with what we want to do, but we have to make sure that our systems are set up to support that. And sometimes that could be starting smaller and building. It all depends on your size and the scope of what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked a bit about influencer marketing. You have a quote that says, if you truly understand your influencers, it is easier to engage with them. So how much engagement do you think is necessary for influencer marketing for a small or medium business?
So here's the thing, an influencer marketing, ask any different professional and they might tell you something different. So some people look at influencer marketing and they see it's a pay to play. Others will look at it and say, you know what, there are influencers out there who are just so inspired by a company and a cause that they naturally align and they share. So, and then there's those that are in between. So it's really figuring out, by the time, let's put it this way, sometimes look at Instagram. You might have some Instagrammers who have not reached that 5,000 follower mark, right? Once
Yeah.
you're on 5,000, once you get to 7,500, when you ask them to participate in some kind of a campaign, that is a pay to play. But sometimes there's some really great up and coming influencers that your values align, what you're doing align, the passion is there. And now it's just a question of knowing who are they serving, what do those people care about, what do they like to do. I think that's one of the things where if you're building a relationship with an influencer, paying them or not, what do they like to participate in? When I used to work for NASDAQ, we did a lot of content marketing, and many of our influencers, we would know, is this an influencer who would want to come on the show that we broadcast out of MarketSite? Or is this an influencer who might want to be videotaped at a trade show and that videotape would be on a series on the blog? Is this an influencer who might want to write a guest post on the Market Insight blog? But we always knew what that person wanted to do and how they like to participate, because it was a win-win. Whatever content we created together, it was helping the brand, but it was also helping the influencer to share great information with their Uber friends, who would then go and share and amplify and get everybody to act.
Okay. All right. So moving on, what would you suggest are some of the best tools and technologies and platforms out there that a small business could use to scale up?
So there are a lot. As a writer and an author, and anybody, no matter how good of a writer you think you are, Grammarly is a great free tool. I think actually we now have the paid version. It's that good. But we started with the free version, and you can pretty much put it on your Chrome browser, and it will make sure that you are grammatically correct in your emails, in your blog posts, in your tweets. That's great. Another tool that I really like is Evernote. And this does also keep me organized because I create notebooks. And whenever I see something that I can't necessarily use right away, I'll put it in a notebook that's maybe focused on women worldwide, or a notebook that's focused on the book that I'm writing, or a notebook that's focused on my PR expanded blog posts. And I'm just dragging and dropping things into notebooks. So that's great. I also think that there are some great Google tools to take advantage of. So there's Google surveys, there's Google Analytics is so important. I mean, everybody should have some way to be able to analyze the traffic on their sites. Google URL Builder. There are different influencer tools that you can use. Tracker is one of them. Another one is BuzzSumo that identifies content and influencers. My teams, I'm on all different teams helping brands with storytelling. Some of my teams are on Hootsuite. They find that Hootsuite is really good to carve out conversations for storytelling and also analytics. So you can see, and also we have a Basecamp for project management.
Okay.
Tools.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of navigating.
Yeah, it can be. All right, so my last question is, obviously you've worked really hard to get to where you are. How would you advise somebody who wanted to get into media or public relations to get, close to where you are today?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I think it's listening. So if you can listen, you're going to learn more. If you can listen, actively listen, chances are you'll be more empathetic. If you can listen, you'll be a problem solver. If you can listen, you can share more meaningfully. That's where it all starts. Kind of put your agenda aside and tune in a little bit more. And that's going to help to create the information, the stories, the advice, whatever it is that people need from you. And that's how relationships can really spark and grow. So I've always been a listener, and that would be my best advice.
Okay. Well, Deirdre, thank you so much. This has been a really great interview, and I think our audience is going to absolutely love it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Nicole.
Thank you.